This is Giancarlo Nadeau with Breakaway Coverage, the first ever episode of Breakaway Coverage. Joining me is KO from the Sunshine Coast, the founder of TTHE. This tournament has everything. KO, thank you so much for doing this. How's everything going?
Oh, it's pretty good. I'm just coming off of a 7 game tournament last weekend. I was up in Winthrop in the Cascade Mountains playing some
Wow.
inclusive hockey, and yeah, so I'm a bit rugged today, and I got a bit of a voice missing from all the yelling, but I'm here. I'm stoked to be chatting with you.
No, thanks so much for jumping on. I really do appreciate it. And we'll talk more about, your past weekend as we move on. But let's go to the very beginning here. Where did you grow up and when did you kind of realize hockey was something you wanted to do?
I grew up in Coquitlam. My dad played hockey, and I probably started mucking around with some hockey sticks that he had in the garage when I was like 7 or 8. Just kind of, passing back and forth in the driveway. But all the guys in the neighborhood growing up played hockey, so we always had nets kind of in the yard, and we'd put them out on the road and play. And my dad brought home a really big spotlight one night. He used to work for the bus the bus folk, and would bring home goods. And he brought home this really big bright light, and we'd have night games, and that was really fun. And then I got rollerblades, and everything kind of sped up, and started playing a lot of roller hockey in a church parking lot up the road. Yeah, hockey was pretty fundamental in my early years. A lot of hangouts.
Right on. What about a favorite NHL team?
It's funny. I remember watching the playoffs. It was like '94, the Canucks, because it went forever. And I remember we were supposed to have dinner at like a normal dinner time, and then it was like a million overtimes. Um, but that's the only NHL exposure I really remember having, and I had no real allegiance to a team. I'm definitely, if I were to lean on an NHL team, it would be the Kraken, just because they're doing such amazing work down there. They're so inclusive and so rad, and their arena is underground, so subterranean. It's pretty special. But yeah, I don't really watch a lot of hockey.
It's all good. So I will ask you this, and if you don't have an answer, you can always pass. But you kind of mentioned you didn't really watch a lot of hockey growing up, but was there a favorite player, that you maybe had a chance to see a little bit that you kind of liked?
No, I mean, there was always like Gretzky, Pavel Bure. Like, I'm from that era of hockey, but those were just names that we all knew. Um, there weren't really any hockey role models. It was just kind of the kids in the neighborhood.
I gotta ask you this, of course, because this is kind of what breakaway coverage is all about, promoting, the minorities. Of course, the PWHL, it's becoming, the NHL now in so many ways. Do you have a favorite PWHL team?
Honestly, I love all of them. I'm so stoked for the existence of the PWHL. That is the only hockey that I'll put on. I don't have the attention to watch the whole thing, but yeah, it's so fascinating. And I got to go to a PWHL game. I got to go see Montreal and Toronto play, and it was like a 12 out of 10.
It's awesome. It's so great to be a part of it and covering it, and I can't wait to see where it goes to the next level here. Growing up, you played a lot of street hockey, some roller hockey. What inspired you to strap them up and kind of get going?
I think it was just something we were all into doing. Like, like Nintendo was kind of a thing, so we'd play a little duck hunt or something like that. But it was mostly just like go out in the morning after breakfast and come home when it's dinner time. That was kind of our rules growing up, and so we just kind of muck around the neighborhood. And yeah, putting rollerblades on really like expanded our horizons, and we could go a lot more places. So we could go to other people's houses and be like, hey, come and join us. Hey, come and join us. And our recruitment got pretty big, so we could get like full teams going. My buddy had goalie pads, and he was always happy to be in net. So if you got a goalie, you got a game.
Exactly. There you go. Well, I'm sure you've learned that from building the TTHC and TTHE into what it is. Of course, you need the goaltender in order to have the team. So
Yeah.
You're doing a lot of really great stuff. We'll talk more about the TTHC moving on, but one of the next questions I want to ask you, since we're kind of moving through your life a little bit in terms of where you were born and growing up, what you like to do. Being a teenager, it's hard for a lot of different people. They struggle to fit in. I just curious to know how you were able to do it. Being a queer teenager, how was that for you growing up, especially still playing sports like you did?
Yeah, well, I really wanted to play ice hockey, and there wasn't a girls' ice hockey. I wasn't allowed to play guys at the time in Coquitlam. They weren't into that. But I did manage to get permission to play on a guys' roller hockey team. So I played roller hockey 1 year, and it was awesome. But I got changed in like a broom closet, classic story. So you were kind of part of the team, but you weren't totally part of the team. And then the next year, they actually started a girls' ice hockey team in Coquitlam. So I got to play, which was really amazing. I played rep for 1 year, and it was super, super fun. But then I came out that summer. So I was 14. So yeah, I came out that summer. And then when season started up again, locker rooms just got kind of awkward. And, it was a different time then. There was a lot less understanding and education and vocabulary. And so, yeah, I quit hockey and just I picked up skateboarding actually and started doing that. It was more of a solo venture. Um, yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned you took a step away from the game of hockey, but you did come back to it in your 20s. Talk to me about how that experience of coming back into the game that you fell in love with was different compared to when you left it.
Yeah, I mean, it in a lot of ways it was similar. I still was changing by myself because I was playing like late night men's hockey in whatever neighborhood I was living in at the time. I moved around a lot in my 20s. Um, yeah, so on the ice, like people were nice enough, and it was a great workout. But it was definitely missing that team aspect, and um, yeah, moving to the Sunshine Coast really sort of reignited a passion and a love for hockey that I had forgotten a long time ago. Yeah,
Moving to the Sunshine Coast, moving anywhere for that matter, it's a fresh start for somebody, a fresh start for
yeah.
you being in a new community. What drew you to the Sunshine Coast?
My wife grew up here, and we were peak COVID, living in Victoria, and we sold our condo, and we kind of just got priced out of the market. And we were like, where should we go next? We should go explore somewhere, and we always kind of had talked about coming here, so we thought we'd come check it out. And it turns out it was a really good fit. I joined hockey, that became like a pretty big pinnacle in my life, and I got on the search and rescue and just trained to be a paramedic. So I'm pretty involved in the community. Started throwing the tournaments, and we ended up buying a house out here. So I guess I'm a coaster now for for the foreseeable future, anyways.
Well, you've been involved with the Sunshine Coast since you first moved here. Do you think you've got a bigger passion for the game now that you're on the Sunshine Coast than you did growing up?
100%. Yeah, I think because I have the ability to connect community here, and the awareness of like how important that is, especially because I live Garden Bay. I live pretty remote. So hockey is like a huge social aspect. It's the thing that I look forward to in the winter. It gets a bit quiet out here, so yeah, it's a great connection piece. It's a great way to meet people, make friends, and then it opens up so many doors. Like not only with hockey on the Sunshine Coast because we've got lots of leagues and games here, but traveling around and doing all these tournaments. It's been pretty spectacular.
You created the TTHE hockey tournament. We've talked about it a little bit earlier on in this episode, but talk to me more about it. What really inspired you to create something like that?
Yeah, so TTHE, this tournament has everything, is a women, trans, non-binary, two-spirit inclusive tournament. It was kind of inspired by just, playing hockey and recognizing that there was sort of a lack of representation in the locker room. I didn't see a lot of queer hockey folk. I didn't see a lot of gender diverse hockey folk. I mean, now I'm aware that there are actually tons, but when I first started 3 years ago, I kind of felt like there's got to be more folks like me that play hockey, and so I created the tournament just to make space for folks who are marginalized in hockey, and And it turns out that there's a lot of folks like me. And yeah, it went really well the first year. We just had 4 teams. I didn't really tell anyone about it. And the year after we went to 6 easily, and this year we're a hefty 8, and the momentum just keeps building, and more people are involved, and bigger sponsors, and yeah, it's pretty special what's happening.
You just talked about it. You started with 4, you've doubled it, now you're at 8. You must be so proud to kind of see your baby in so many ways, grow into what it is.
Yeah, I mean, we have over 100 players coming from all over North America. It's bewildering that people get on planes, to come to a thing that was just kind of an idea. But I feel very lucky and grateful that I get to be part of so many people's hockey story, and I get to continue to promote inclusivity in the sport.
What's in store for this year's event? What can you tell me about it?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is this year has kind of turned into like a bit of a 4 day 4 day event. So we're starting off on the Thursday night. We've got a inclusivity in sports workshop here on the coast that I'm able to provide through a community safety grant from Fierté Canada Pride and Women and Gender and Equality Canada. So yeah, that's been really cool. We've got like over 120 folks coming to that workshop, which I love. And then on the Friday, we've got 4 games. We've got a player meet and greet that's being catered by Nourish, which is a restaurant in Seashell. And then on the Saturday, we've got a rink side barber, so you can get a mullet while watching hockey. We've got the U11 girls hockey doing their fundraiser bake sale. We've got 8 games of hockey. We've got live commentary by drag performers. Pardon me. Um, we've got the big dance happening this Saturday night, which we sold out. It's over 300 people. It's Sunday. We're able to sponsor community ice, so it's a free everyone skate after all of the games Sunday morning. We're opening up the ice to anyone. They can come, free rentals, just everyone welcome community pride skate. And I'm really excited to be able to provide all of these things to the coast. And, having this many people coming over from all over, we sold out the hotel. We're selling out the hostel. We've got shuttle buses. Like, it's really a unique opportunity for coast businesses to be involved, and for us to be able to support, small businesses on the coast, especially during the slow season. So I feel, really excited for what's going to happen. You can only plan and build so much, and then the rest is just like the magic that the people bring. So I'm looking forward to it.
It sounds so much fun. I personally wish I was there myself, but one of those things you just mentioned kind of caught my attention more than anything else. And of course, it's the broadcasting. That's something that I do. So, can you just talk to me about more about that? Because that just sounds really, really exciting.
Yeah, so Friday and Saturday night, we did it last year, and it was just such a hit. We have drag performers doing live commentary of the game, and most of them have no hockey experience. So I just give them a hot sheet with hockey words and some non-hockey words, and they just kind of run with it, and it's really really fun. And I just think that that allows there to be just like a campy vibe to, hockey is a pretty serious sport sometimes, and I really want it to translate into just accessible and a good time. We also have a live mural painting going on all weekend. We partnered with Paintilio and Tammy Tattoos, created this beautiful 4 foot by 4 foot mural.
Wow.
So it'll be upstairs in the lounge, and it's basically like an adult paint by numbers. So anybody can come. They don't have to be into hockey. They could just come for the vibes and zero in on the painting. And I'm just trying to make sure that there's space for everyone and something for everyone to do.
I got to go back to this broadcasting super quick though. Is there gonna be a place where we can watch this?
No, I don't think we're that fancy, but for 2026.
That sounds super, super cool. And I commend you again for everything you've been able to accomplish in such a short amount of time. Hockey is what brings people together, but it's,
Yeah.
things that you're doing that really unite people and do so much more than just the game of hockey itself. There sounds like so much going on this weekend. I cannot wait. Talk to me about the support from the community a little bit. You mentioned the sponsors are, having a great time with it. What are you hearing from the people on the coast?
I mean, it's just been so much enthusiasm. My phone's been blowing up all week with people just being like, "Thanks for what you're doing, and let me know if I can help." And so it's really the only reason why the tournament is has been able to grow so much is that so many people are stepping in and saying, "Hey, can I write a grant on the behalf of the tournament? Can I organize this? Can I donate that?" Like yeah, it's the only way. And the amount of volunteers that I have this year is really huge, and it helps me so much. Like we partnered with the Sunshine Coast Pride Society, and they were able to take over the dance for me. So they're running it all, and it's just so awesome that I could be like, "You got this." They're like, "We got this." So I'm like, "Great." So it's off my table, and we have a lot of support from Source Trail Based Source for Sports. Josh is just amazing, and pretty much anything that I need, he's just like, "I got you." So being connected to like the sports hub of the coast is really important to have that kind of support too.
Vanilla Ice, Purple Haze, and What the Fox. So those are some of my favorite team names that I saw on the website. Who came up with those names, by the way?
I named them all. Yeah, they were all just kind of rattled around in my head, and again, I wanted them to be silly and fun because hockey can be serious, and it doesn't have to be this weekend at all.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, they were all inspired kind of by the colors of the jerseys. Very lucky this year to have financial support from the NHL, so I was able to design and make custom jerseys for all 8 teams. They belong to the tournament, so they get signed out and used and then stored until next year. But yeah, designing those was really fun. I had like 80 or 90 different color combinations up on the screen for days, and then just kind of zeroed in on it. And then yeah, I feel like the names are kind of reflective of the jerseys.
The NHL is doing such a great job of supporting supporting those minorities in hockey. Now you see a lot of it with the PWHL where they go and they play games in the NHL arenas, like how you saw the Montreal Victoire and Toronto Scepters at Rogers Arena. You got to be very pleased with what you're seeing from the National Hockey League in terms of supporting those other groups.
Yeah, I think that they were really challenged with their Pride Tape ban a couple years ago, and it was a turning point. They created the Player Inclusion Coalition, the PIC, after that, and they're just making strides in becoming kind of more 2025, more inclusive, more accessible, and I appreciate that. I would not have been able to provide jerseys for the players, and historically, we've just borrowed jerseys from teams on the coast, which was really awesome and had like a cute community vibe. But there's something about putting on a fresh kit that really makes you feel, seen and celebrated. And I wanted players to not feel like an afterthought, and so jerseys were kind of the pivot for me. And after a couple meetings with the NHL, they were keen to support, and I'm just so appreciative of that. Yeah.
This tournament, you're running it, but you've also had a chance to play in other tournaments. You mentioned earlier you were part of one this past weekend. What has it been like to be playing in these different tournaments and get the chance to play with a lot of different people you may not, have ever met in your life, really?
Yeah, the diversity in hockey is pretty spectacular. You could sit down at a table with 16 other people, and you're all from totally different backgrounds, different religions, different race, different culture, different experience, and you're all just connecting. You're all like, "Hey, you play hockey? I play hockey. Like, let's chat about it." And finding common ground, I think, is really key, especially these days. Is just like understanding that we're a lot more alike than we are different. So hockey is a great gateway to that for sure. And
Just
I've been able to travel so much and do that.
Wow, that's awesome. Absolutely awesome. Just two more questions here for you. And again, I thank you so very much for taking the time to do this. Just talk to me about Where you think the game's going in terms of inclusivity, where it is right now compared to when you first started playing?
I mean, yeah, now I really am a firm believer that what happens in the locker room translates onto the ice. So, going to all of these inclusive tournaments where you just all dress as a team, I think is really really been the key to my hockey success and connection, and vulnerability and being authentic with people, off the ice, and that makes for such a better, I feel like, more elevated game. So yeah, the inclusive tournaments, I think there's just such a need for them. I've traveled to Seattle, Calgary, Toronto, Minnesota. Like there's Portland. There's hockey, all kinds of hockey everywhere, and I think that there's ways to explore finding the kind of hockey that fits for you. It's not a one size fits all.
You know, I honestly didn't know too much about everything that's going on in hockey these days, for people in the LGBTQ community and these other groups. So you're really doing a nice job of bringing it to the forefront and letting people know that, hey, there is a place for you to play. And that kind of leads me to my last question for you. What advice do you have for somebody who's, probably going through your shoes or were in your shoes? Wants to play hockey, but doesn't feel like there's a place for them to be.
Yeah, I mean, the internet is a powerful tool. I would explore what's going on in your neighborhood, what's going on in the state over. There's lots of different kinds of hockey, and I think that a lot of people have a similar story that I'm meeting throughout my travels where, they were really into hockey and then they came out and it got uncomfortable for them, or they were transitioning and they didn't know if they fit where they fit on a team anymore, or, there was, some policy that was a barrier. Like, I just think that there's ways for people to come back to hockey, um, because it's such an amazing sport and it brings so much to my life. And I'm so grateful to be in a position that, hopefully brings it back to folks so that they can continue their hockey journey and maybe go back to their community and start something, because this didn't exist 3 years ago. TTHE, it was just an idea, and it's grown so much that I'm really encouraged that there's a lot of good people out there that want to help make hockey more inclusive, because hockey is for everyone.
It puts a smile on my face hearing the words hockey is for everyone because it truly is. In my position, I get a chance to talk to a lot of different people, and it's great. It unites us all, it brings us all together, and now we're celebrating the game more than ever before. So, KO, a pleasure. Thank you so very much for jumping on with me. I really did appreciate it. Best of luck this weekend.
Thanks so much. I'll talk to you soon.
That's KO with TTHE. This tournament has everything. I'm Giancarlo Nadeau with Breakaway Coverage. Thank you for tuning in to our first ever episode. We're coming back next week.